From now until the end of April, you can save $100 on Warthog controllers when you buy a turnkey electric system from HighGravityBrew.com. Take the pain out of propane for $100 less until the end of the month. You can even configure your system with Blickman or Spike vessels and get your dream setup at big savings. This discount can't be combined with other discounts or offers, but it will be applied automatically at checkout. Save $100 on a Warthog controller when you pick up a new turnkey system until the end of April at HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, April 20th, 2023. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Tim Leber, Steve Wilkes, and I reach into a Mead Grab Bag and taste meads from Tim and Steve. We'll sample a mead from Desert Honey, a mead with spruce, and a Mellow with cherries. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. And financial supporters have already seen the behind-the-scenes video that Steve and I made of me breaking in my new steam juicer with some homegrown mulberries that Steve brought. It was a lot of fun. There's awesome news about Steve, by the way. Steve Wilkes is going to be inducted into the Drummers of Arkansas Hall of Fame this summer. Most of you probably know Steve as a jazz drummer, but I doubt many of you appreciate how good he really is because he's so well, I was going to say self-defecating, but that's another thing. he's so self-deprecating, but he really is talented, and he's going to be recognized in a big way. So congratulations to Steve for being added to the Drummers of Arkansas Hall of Fame. And if you search on YouTube for the Claudia Burson Trio, you can see some videos of Steve playing and hear some cuts from albums that he's produced. Very cool. Also cool is lagering some tasty beers for summertime with the seasonal yeast strain L09 Que Bueno from our friends and sponsors Imperial Yeast. I brewed 2 back-to-back bocks with Que Bueno, and they turned out delicious. I made a 2-liter starter, and it was done within 24 hours. It just burned right through it. And when I pitched the dregs of that starter in a 5-gallon batch of 1070 wort, it was actually fermenting in 4 or 5 hours at lager temperature. Now, I usually don't make starters with Imperial thanks to the 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open package. In fact, say it with me, my stir plate is usually dusty because I don't use it anymore to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. Ask your local homebrew store about L09 Que Bueno from Imperial Yeast and check them out at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. Okay, let's get right into it. This was a fun show, even if you don't make meads yet. You should. There's useful information here for beer brewers as well. We recorded this after tasting Tim's experiment with steam-juiced strawberries. We had fun making it, and I hope that you will have fun listening. Tim Leber, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks. It was like I was just here.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to run these things, but maybe I'll put another episode in between.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have a as we used to say in the news biz, an evergreen.
An evergreen. Yeah. That's right.
Which is essentially a story that sits on the assignment editor's desk and never gets run, in my experience. Yeah. and I get phone calls from the people I've interviewed. When is that story going to run? I don't know. You got to talk to the assignment editor. When's that story going to? It's an evergreen. Oh no!
I got interviewed for an evergreen one time. When I was transitioning from working at the university to being a full-time brewing guy. Oh. And they did a big interview, and I did this giant thing with the magazine out of New York. It was AARP. Oh. They were like second careers, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the damn thing sat in the evergreen shelf for so long that it molded. Oh. And then they never ran it.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, this will run because this is going to be good.
Okay.
What we've got is we're just coming off the experiment with the 2 different yeasts with the steam juiced strawberries, which was delicious.
Very, very nice.
So should I just reach over and just grab something, or and Tim, Steve has said that he is open to honest.
Oh, yeah.
And frank criticism on this.
Well, you were the honest, you be frank.
That could be a problem. But no.
You were the experienced mead judge, and so I don't think you've never submitted your meads to a competition.
I've never competed.
So I mean, don't be mean about it, Tim. But
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
I have learned a long time ago. There's a very particular way to say this sucks without I spent a lot of years in customer service, so
yeah,
there's a way to say you're freaking crazy without sounding judgmental.
Well, I gave a bad
meads are fine
at a homebrew con. I gave I've told this story before, but I gave a bad mead to Nick
I know
Matt Whitey.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah,
not Nick. Matt Whitey, and he was very diplomatic.
He was gentle,
but he told me it smelled like pee, essentially.
Yes,
and he was right. Once he said that, I was like, "Oh yeah, the bathroom."
I barely knew you.
Alas, poor uric acid. I knew him well, Horatio.
I knew him well. Okay, well, grab a mead.
Somebody that lives north who had a party, and Gordon Strong was there because he knows all kinds of brewers and stuff, and so Gordon was there for some reason, and I walked up and handed Gordon this, poured Gordon a little mead, and he looks at it, and I looked at him and said, "Hey man, just enjoy it. I don't want any judgment. I don't want any criticism.
Relax."
What's going through his head is like, oh, now I got to judge this thing for this guy. Like, no, just drink it and enjoy it. It's fine.
Relax.
Relax.
Okay, well let's start. Since we've been drinking your meads, Tim, let's start with what is this one, Steve? It's ours is in a New Belgium bottle.
Okay, so what we're going to start with, and I'm going to open up my program. So we're going to start with this mead, which is a sparkling mead.
Oh,
and so therefore I bottled it in 12-ounce beer bottles, so I could naturally carbonate it. This was a 2.5 gallon batch.
Well, what is it?
I'm getting ready to tell you.
Oh.
It is a New Mexico, a wild honey from New Mexico, meaning it wasn't from like a honey from an orchard, meaning like there were lots of orchards around.
Right.
It was wild New Mexico wildflower honey, 4 pounds, in a 2.5 gallon batch. And I brewed this specifically. There's a little backstory. So a friend of ours from Santa Fe gave me this honey, and she said, do something with this. And I thought about it for a moment. I thought I'd brew a beer with it, but I was, I can make a small batch of mead. And our son is getting married next year, so this is the mead that I brewed for him to have a toast during their wedding ceremony, just as James brewed a mead for me that was used during my wedding ceremony, during my vows, that my wife and I toasted each other with on a very special mead that James made in my honor 25 years ago.
Gretchen's as well.
Well, yeah, Gretchen's as well. I didn't mean it like that.
She was there too.
She was there too.
Not the current wife, the one before this.
And anyway, I kind of wanted to honor that. And so when I was given that honey, I thought, there's a perfect opportunity. So that's what we're drinking.
Cheers.
Cheers. So that was the little. I hope that's one you opened, because if you open one of the other ones, you're not going to get the same.
No. I waited till you said which one you were going to open before I started. So
okay. So this is half the alcohol as the ones that we just the strawberries.
Well,
so this is. I'll tell you a little bit about it.
It's nice.
I used it's a 2.5 gallon batch. So basically a case of beer bottles, Mm-hmm. And then I used 4 pounds of this honey. I used EC118, Lauvelin EC118. Yep. I wanted a very clean fermentation. I didn't want any yeast character coming through as best as I could. I just wanted it to be the honey.
Yeah.
There's no further adjuncts. There's no further flavor. It's just the honey, the yeast, and the water. I mean, that's it. I did use 5 grams of DAP, 10 grams of the L.D. Carlson version of yeast energizers, whatever they put in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Filtered water to volume. The starting Brix was 14 or a 1058 specific gravity. It finished at 1.0 or 0.998. I can never quite tell, but definitely finished at 1 or lower. So I'm calling it 7.5%. I primed the entire batch at bottling with 1/4 of a cup of honey. That's the priming sugar. And then I packaged it in 12-ounce beer bottles and let it ferment. And it's been in the bottle for 6 to 8 weeks.
Ours are about at room temperature because we've been sitting and talking for a while. It does remind me a lot of that mead that I made for y'all's wedding way back a long time ago. It's very dry. It's sparkling, but there's a very nice honey presence. I don't taste any flaws at all. It doesn't taste like pee.
No. I do get a little of the yeast flavor from the EC 118, 1118, but I doubt that's something non-mead geeks would pick up on.
Yeah, I agree. I get a little bit too.
Yeah, it's got a little champagne-y character to it.
Yeah.
That kind of bread thing that champagne has. That's from the yeast. It's not unpleasant. It's not bad. It's just I noticed it, and like I said, I don't think if anybody else does, they'll go, "Oh, it's like champagne."
Yeah, it's very much like. But you can still taste.
Supposed to be, yeah.
And you can still taste the honey. It's not sweet by any stretch of the imagination, but on my palate, I do taste honey. I think I could tell you, that this wasn't champagne and it was mead. Because it does taste like a honeycomb. But you're right; it does have there is a bready note in the background that I don't think is unpleasant at all. I think it adds to the equation.
Yeah, it does have kind of that Moet and Chandon kind of.
Yeah. It I didn't say that in any way to be unpleasant. It's just it's a flavor of the yeast that I pick up on. But I think small meads, hydromels and session meads really need to be sparkling in order to shine, because there's so little going on otherwise that the carbonation drives the aromatics and into your palate, and it also makes them feel fuller than they are. This is really good.
Oh, good. Nice.
I agree with you on that. I was on the way out here, I was thinking about meads I'd made and, ones that were good and ones that weren't so good. And I was remembering that the ones that I didn't care as much for tended to be low ABV and still.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they just seem thin.
Yeah, they seem thin. They don't seem to carry a lot. They're just not very appealing. They're like, I can't tell if this is water or what is this?
So in that case, I mean, if you are wanting to make, Tim, a low gravity still mead, do you mess with the water chemistry to bring out some character in the beverage? I mean, what are some tricks that people can use?
I'm a believer in a little calcium chloride if people are using very soft water, because the calcium participates in a three-way reaction with the alkalinity and the carbonic acid, and it moderates the pH drop. So a problem you have with meads, especially if you use soft water, is the yeast cause the pH to drop, cause it to become too acidic, and can cause it to drop so far that it then impedes the fermentation. A little calcium carbonate, and we're talking half a teaspoon in 5 gallons of RO water, will help moderate, those reactions. And sorry, John Palmer reached out and touched me there for a moment. But
you were channeling him.
Yeah. I knew that Ouija board with the water book was a bad idea. No.
Well, there are worse people to channel for sure.
But I think a little, and the calcium chloride kind of helps with the fullness. But at the end of the day, what's going to help you the most is carbonation. Will help bring all that stuff up. And I like to carbonate any experiments. I mean, the strawberry we talked about just a little bit ago, I didn't do that with because they're small bottles, and my normal carbonation method would have made the bottles explode. But because I got those lozenge kinds of carbonation tabs,
not the aspirin kind.
Yeah, the ones that look like old-fashioned candies.
Right.
And that would have been way too much in those little bottles, and I didn't think it needed it anyway.
You should prime with whorehound candy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You say that, and somebody out there right now is making a note. Yeah. Prime with whorehound candy. So, but also I think the calcium does give you a little more mouthfeel, a little more body. If you got those minerals.
Yeah.
Now, I live where the water's very soft. If you live where the water's very hard, you may not need to add any calcium. You may need to thin it out some.
Yeah, I was going to say our water now. This mead, in fact, all these meads that I made, I used purchased spring water.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. So but our water is actually pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's a limestone. It's a karst limestone geography. Our water comes out of Beaver Lake. That's what that's what those rivers are fed by. And so if you filter our water, it's actually quite good beer water. Beer water.
Yeah.
It's got plenty of minerals in it. For the right style of beer, of course.
Right.
Right. But I think that's a little too much for mead. I think for mead you want yellow beer water. Something fairly light, low in minerals. But if it's very low in minerals, a little calcium carbonate, calcium chloride, will help quite nicely.
Did you use? I meant to ask you. This is a cross-show reference, but I meant to ask you on your strawberry meads if you had added any kind of acids, acid blend, or you didn't do anything to kick that.
No.
Okay.
I always wait till the end to add acid.
Good.
And I didn't think that needed it a bit. I find with steam juicing, I rarely have to add acid because you get so much of the fruit acid out of so much of the acid out of the fruit that it actually becomes quite easy to then back sweeten. I keep threatening to send you a bottle of this blackberry I did that I ended up back sweetening like 1050. Actually, back sweetened with more honey than I made it with. Because there was so much acidity and so much tannin in the blackberry that it took it. It ended up at semi-sweet, but it's like 1050 back sweetened.
Wow.
I mean,
we'll bring it to San Diego.
Yeah.
I'll bring it. Yeah, I'm gonna drive down to San Diego.
We're just gonna go to San Diego and sit in Tim's room and just I mean, slightly inebriated.
Well, there's a meadery just not more than 2 miles from the hotel.
Oh, Lord, cut off my legs and call me Shorty.
Yeah. Lost Causes down there, and Billy knows what he's doing, so. Plug. But, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I mean, I really like this mead. I think it's very nice. It'll be a very good wedding mead because it's something people can drink and enjoy.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get hammered.
I think it would be. Oh, good point. But I think it would have been. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I would like it even more if it was chilled. And that's our fault for
not in a plastic cup.
Yeah, that's our fault for not putting these in the fridge.
I drink mine chilled, and it's very much champagne.
I wish I had primed it a little bit more aggressively.
Really?
I wish it was slightly more carbonated.
Huh.
But that's a splitting hairs.
I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Cold. The carbonation is fine when it's cold because it holds on to it.
Yeah, I haven't had one of these in a month or so, and you know how it is when you're brewing it. You got to taste one every few months or weeks. Cause is that still good?
Yeah,
but I
made a mead for your wedding, son. It's all gone.
It's all gone. Gretchen told me, "Do you think you have enough?" I said, "I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I may have to make another batch."
It's in October.
I got plenty of time. No one needs to know.
Okay, Tim. Let's reach into the grab bag for one of your meads. What should we get?
I forgot what I sent you. I do know I sent you a cocktail inspired mead, which probably ought to be the last thing we do.
the
Other than that, I don't
we got
have any opinions.
old fashioned.
Old fashioned. That should go last.
We got spruce goose.
Do the spruce next, because it's
that's interesting to me.
That'd be a good companion to this New Mexico wildflower. So
Yeah.
do that.
So I was trying to think like if you were a bee in the desert collecting so is this? I'm wondering if that honey is mostly like a cactus honey, or
Depends on the time of
sage.
year, probably.
I know, but I was fantasizing about what that honey was made from.
I got to tell you,
moving on.
I stayed. I went on a corporate thing down at Lajitas, Texas.
Okay.
Which is in the middle of the desert, and we arrived down there, and the night that we arrived, there was a torrential rainstorm, and we were there for the next few days, and there were flowers popping out everywhere on the desert floor, where before I don't even know if you could have told that there was a plant there, but there was a beautiful flower on the just on the ground.
Yeah,
and there was
what my therapist said about me.
That you're a beautiful flower
She said
on the ground.
You couldn't tell there was a plant there, but now there's a beautiful flower. After I opened up,
How many sessions was that? After you paid off her boat.
that's right.
But that just to say that, you know, at certain times of year, I'm sure that in a desert the bees have a lot more and depending on the weather, the bees may have more things to do.
There's nothing busier than a desert bee.
The desert.
Or an ant bee. Who's in the desert.
Don't eat her pickles.
Don't eat her pickles with the pies.
Speaking of delicious meads and honey-based beverages, our friends and sponsors Ricky and Kelly from Groenfell and Havoc Meaderies in Vermont have something new and tasty for you. Well, it's a new offering from Groenfell, but it's been around for a long time. It's Sima, S-I-M-A, a traditional mead with raisins and lemons. Sima is a traditional beverage from Finland closely associated with Vappu, otherwise known as May Day, Walpurgisnacht, and Beltane in other regions. While the modern version is more of a lemon soda, Groenfell pays homage to the original recipe with dark wildflower honey, raisins, and lemon juice. The color is dark gold, the aroma is raisins and chocolate, and the flavor is of dark honey with bright lemon breaking through. That sounds really good. It's carbonated and only 5.2% ABV, so it's nicely sessionable. Check out Sima, S-I-M-A, and all the other honey-based deliciousness at family-owned and operated Groenfell.com. That's Groennfell.
Oh, okay. What are we drinking?
Spruce Goose.
Spruce Goose.
Spruce Goose.
Cheers.
Right, cheers.
So, I used to live right next to a nice urban park here in Seattle, Kobe Terrace, and there's a lot of spruce trees in there, and so I went up one day. I just started picking spruce tips when they were all nice and about 2-3 inches long and soft and kind of bright chartreuse green. When they were tipped. So I made a tea with the spruce tips and some fir tips because I thought add a little complexity to it, but just a little bit. There was 100 grams or so of, this is a 2.5 gallon batch, so 10 liters. There's 100 grams of spruce tips and 10 grams of fir tips. But I made a tea and used that as a brewing water. And
the whole brewing. Wow, all right. Interesting.
Yeah. So I just thought, hey, it'd be nice. It'd be, something different. And I've had it sometimes where I think, boy, this is really good. And I've had other times like,
What was the yeast?
This was Y yeast sweet mead.
Okay.
So the idea was it would leave a little residual sugar. It ended up at 0.997.
Yeah, I never got that sweet mead
that
thing.
Plan didn't work out.
Yeah. This is very. As soon as I tasted it, the very first thing that popped into my mind was Fröhliche Weihnachten, which is Merry Christmas in German, because it was like, wow, it's like Christmas and potpourri candles, and although it's not like potpourri, but it's just got that.
But it has that character.
Yeah, and it's pleasant, and it's enjoyable, and it's Christmas, it's the holidays.
I get that.
Yeah.
But when you say things like that, you're thinking of like a spice cake.
It's not. It's not that kind of spice.
No,
It's just the mountain air. It's just like you climbed up to about 9,000 feet.
It's better than dairy air. When you work on a farm,
budget airline.
when you
No, but it is. It's like
when you work on a cow farm, you don't want to smell that dairy air.
No.
Yeah.
To me, the spruce is very. I was expecting it to be more like piney and sharp and like pine sol, but it's not. You get the spruce, but it's very soft, and it finished out at 0.997, but it has a sweetness to it that really complements that evergreen character, and boy, this is super nice.
I was going to say, this is yet another thing. This is I think the second mead that Tim has presented to us that I've never tasted before. I've never had this flavor ever before, and it's very good. And so I've had plenty of. I've had spruce beers and all that, but I've never had a mead using spruce tips, and it's delicious.
Yeah, I would not have thought that it would finish that dry, because it's not. It doesn't taste dry.
No,
it's to me.
I think there's some sweetness.
Yeah.
In the spruce, something in there that tastes sweet.
Yeah.
That is not sugar. But
yeah, it doesn't.
So it tricks your palate.
It doesn't taste too sweet to me. It's not like gloppy and ooh, this is too sweet.
No.
There is when I taste it, I'm like, ooh, this is sweet.
And tell me about the honey.
So it's 3 kilograms of orange blossom. But it's not all orange blossom. So it's like a kilogram of orange blossom and then 2 kilograms of a just basic wildflower clover, because I didn't want the orange blossom can kind of be a bully, and I thought this would be the spruce would be a delicate flavor.
Yeah.
So I think the residual sweetness, I think orange blossom honey always tastes sweeter than the numbers tell you. And I think there's some sweetness from the spruce. But I didn't want it to be like a spruce beer, where like you buy a bottle of spruce extract at the homebrew store and you pour that into your 5-gallon.
Yeah, that's miserable.
No, this is very, very.
Right.
I could drink.
I wanted
the whole
it to
bottle.
evoke.
Would be
That's
very
super
happy.
good.
No, it's delicate. It just I'm sipping on this little half of a 12-ounce bottle, and I just keep wanting to sip more. It just begs you to come back and drink some more. It's really, it doesn't taste, it's 12.74% alcohol, but you would never know that.
Well, you will after a little while.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that
Daddy
ice
likes
pack
big
that but no, this is wonderful. I mean, obviously there's no off flavor. I don't think you've ever sent us anything with any off flavors. But there's no anything that would detract away from the delicate. I mean, the spruce is there, but it's very delicate,
and it's in balance with the honey,
right?
And the honey is there,
right?
This is also something I made back in 2018.
Wow. Okay.
So that delicate flavor is held very well.
It's definitely not
for that amount of
oxidized
time.
at all.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't oxidize.
Mm-mm.
Well, I think if you carbonate in the bottle, you get protection against oxidation.
Now, I have to say that when I opened it, there was only a teeny tiny little spritz of pressure.
It's supposed to be a hydromel. It's supposed to be a petalin. Just enough to kind of bring, and I may have undershot it some, but it's not supposed to be sparkling like Steve's, wildflower
Yeah.
here was.
Yeah.
Like champagne. It was supposed to be just a little bit of something to help drive those aromas up into your palate as you drink.
Yeah.
But it's not much.
Yeah. I don't. This is still mead.
Yeah,
If
I
you
didn't
were-
get any sense of carbonation from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I-
it's delicious. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's held out very well for being almost 6 years old now.
Yeah.
Oh,
was May of-
absolutely!
it's crazy.
I'm very impressed. I thought it was a few months old.
Yeah, I've got some
Yeah.
stuff in the basement that we could
Yeah.
if you want
it
the
does-
definition of an aged something, I can bring something up from the basement.
It does make me wonder what it would have tasted like. This is very hypothetical, of course, but how strong would the spruce flavor be if it were 2 months in the bottle instead of 6 years in the bottle?
Yeah, how did it
How's it
how did
mellowed?
it
How's
change?
it-
About the same,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
from what I remember. It's
Really?
about
Wow.
the same.
Wow.
That it's really kind of held. But I think that's because I made that tea.
Yeah, was it
And
was it
when I say that, wasn't boiling.
yeah.
I made it like you make green tea. So I boiled the water, let it sit 5 minutes, then put the spruce tips onto it.
Okay. Yeah, that was I'm glad you reminded me of that because I was going to ask you so it was a steeping thing with slightly cooled water off of the boiling point.
Right.
Kind of
right.
like making sun tea in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever made sun tea? You know what I'm talking about?
I thought you just
yeah.
put room temperature water out in the sun.
Yeah, but you put it in the sun and it gets warm, but it doesn't get hot.
Well, it doesn't get
Yeah.
boiling hot.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're going to fight.
Yeah.
This is going to be the end.
Yeah.
There's nothing worth sort of the Mead slap fight. You
Full
finally
of
a girl.
thrown in the pile here. Sweet tea or not sweet tea?
Yeah. Well, in the South, that's an important thing.
Well,
Yes, it is. I grew up north of the sweet tea line.
well,
So,
my sister Connie makes sweet tea, and I swear if you added one more grain of sugar, it would all crystallize and turn to a solid.
Right.
I know you can hang a piece of thread in that, and in like 3 hours, you got candy, man.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going.
yeah, that's Connie's sweet tea. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm developing health problems.
Get a diabetes certificate with each glass.
I love you, Connie. She doesn't listen to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so this I think it's held up very well, but I think it's because I think if I boiled the spruce or put like water, just boil the water and then pour it right on the spruce, I think we'd have lost more of the aromas.
yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah.
But it's
okay,
very nice.
So here's a question: Can you put spruce in a steam juicer?
Never tried because I didn't have a steam juicer when I did this.
I think that's another experiment.
That could be another experiment.
I'm
I was
giving-
reading
That's good.
Lars, and I'm not going to try to say his last name. The
Garschel,
the
Lars,
Norwegian-
Marius Garschel.
Right, the Norwegian farming book, Norwegian farmers book, and I was looking at they use a lot of juniper, and we've got some juniper nearby. And I thought, well, I wonder if I could, do juniper like that. And I've done some juniper meads with the berries. But I got to thinking about it. Could I do juniper, water? Because they use that for some of their wash water.
Yeah, oh yeah. It has
That
has a disinfectant quality as well.
Yeah. So I kind of got to thinking about that. But this was one of those days I was actually walked out of my apartment to take a walk in the park, and I saw these, nice little green spruce tips, and I thought, I'm just going to, go back to my apartment, grab a gallon Ziploc bag, and just grab as many of these as I can. So
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very, very
It's
good.
really it's an experiment, but it is a mature product.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm not getting choked up. It's the allergies
yeah, hay fever season.
or everything's blooming here.
Yeah.
What's so nice about this? It does have that minty, thing that you get from juniper or mint or spruce or it's
Right.
all that kind of real light.
Right.
But if you overdo that, if it gets too strong, then it's very off-putting.
Yeah.
So it strikes a really good balance between the sweetness and the general flavor profile of the honey, and then adding that dimension of the spruce tip. It's absolutely delicious. It's novel. Mm-hmm. I've never had anything like this in my life, and I've drank a lot of things around the world.
Yeah,
I mean, my motto is when I die, I don't want to be.
I've drunk everywhere, man.
That's right. I don't want to die saying I could have eaten that. It's my only regret. So,
and I got to say that Susan whooshed through the room, and I handed her the glass, and she tasted it and said, "Oh, it's good." So there you go.
Well, that's high praise.
And truthfully, that's probably the most profound thing that you'll hear today.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do one more. Steve, which of yours?
Let's do the cherry.
This one is the
no.
All right.
That's elderberry.
Oh,
the lighter colored one's cherry.
Okay,
and I kind of want to get this one out of the way.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm a little worried that it's going to be spritzy, and it's not supposed to be.
Well, but if it's too spritzy, that plug would be hitting the ceiling.
The corks will tell you.
Cork will tell you.
Having walked into my mead storage room and found a cork a good 30 feet away from where everything else was sitting. They'll tell you.
Did your spritz?
My bottle is showing some carbon.
See, I'm really worried about that.
No, this one didn't. This one didn't.
So here's the reason for that. When I bottled this, I had treated it with potassium sulfite. I'm losing my words.
Look at me.
Well, I treated it with the potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfite, and then I racked it into what would eventually become the bottling bucket. I use a conical fermenter to bottle this kind of stuff into, and I treated it, and then I let it set for a couple of weeks. And then I got ready to bottle it, and I thought I wanted to back sweeten this, but I didn't treat it again. And so then I was like, oh man, I hope that doesn't come back to life. So
it's
alive.
My bottle did anyway, but it's nice. It's petulant.
Oh yeah.
Now other people know what that word means, and or other people may not know what that. I certainly know.
I'm sorry, I beat beer geek on you, aren't I? Generally, there's 3 levels of carbonation. There's petulant, which is like half flat soda. It's just sparkling a little bit.
Half flat soda. Dun, dun, dun.
Then there's standard, which is like your regular beer. And then there's champagne level, which is like a Berliner Weiss, very carbonated.
Uh-huh.
And it's carbonated. Like I said, I can see the bubbles evolving out of the liquid as it sits in the bottle, but it's not. It's still got some sweetness to it, so it's not gone too far.
Ours was not spritzy at all.
No, that's interesting. Well, let me tell you about it. Let me tell you what it's made of. So it was a 6-gallon batch. There's 15 pounds of local Arkansas honey in here. It was after it had fermented. I racked it onto that's right. I racked it onto 2 gallons of cherries for 10 days. So I can't think of his name right now, but one of my old customers gave me 2-gallon bags, big bags, stuffed with cherries from Montana.
Oh,
which is exotic to me because Montana's a long way away.
Yeah.
And
they grow dental floss there. So.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's 15 pounds of honey and 2 gallons of cherries, which sat for 10 days, about 10 days in the secondary. The yeast, I used 2 packets, so 10 grams of Lalvin QA23, which is a white wine yeast, a Portuguese white wine yeast. And it's used typically for Chardonnays, Sauvignon Blancs, Semillon, Chardonnays, and Gewürztraminer, which I took some pills to get rid of that the other day. Anyway, I like QA23, and I've used it a lot.
Not Gewürztraminer, Gewürztraminer.
Gewürztraminer.
Your nerd. Yeah.
It's not on my boat. And
is that a U-boat?
Is that a U-boat? In the 6-gallon batch, I used 3 teaspoons of yeast of the LD Carlson version of yeast energizer. I used a tablespoon of DAP, filtered water to volume, and I back sweetened that bottling with 6 ounces total of local Arkansas wildflower honey. The original bricks was 22 or a 1.092 specific gravity. It finished at 1.0, or I call it 0.998 because my eyes aren't very good. So it's about 12 to 12.5% alcohol. I allowed it to finish in a third fermenter. So I racked it again. So it went through 3 fermenters. It's set for a while. I treated it with potassium metabisulfite. I used pectic enzyme too at the very beginning to make sure that it would clear. The pectic enzyme would clear the pectins out. And I bottled it as a still mead, which is
so is this the one that you dropped on the floor?
Yes, I did.
Well, I think the one you dropped probably is carbonated because that would explain the
exactly
the size of the mess.
Well, okay, now, but this is an important point because you divided a fifth into 2, right? Mm-hmm. To send one to Tim and one for us to drink. Mm-hmm. That one you dropped on the floor.
And this is a small bottle that I just happened to bottle, and it was sitting in the
fridge. So the one that we're drinking was bottled
bottle.
at a different time.
No, it was bottled at the same time.
No, but...
No.
Okay. Here's what happened. So James is confused because he doesn't know everything. Here's what happened. So when I was getting ready to send... I know everything, man. When I was getting ready to send these to you, I took 750 milliliter bottles of the cherry mead and the elderberry mead, which we'll have later, and I literally poured them into 300. What are these? 375.
375s.
Yeah. So I split the exact same bottle in half.
Right.
So in theory, now that will happen with the elderberry. With this one, I broke the sister bottle to the one you have, Tim. This is very confusing. But I also had some half bottles that I had bottled anyway, and I just so happened to have had one in the fridge.
So, but what I'm saying is that this bottle that we're drinking from was bottled on the day that you bottled originally.
Yes.
All the other bottles.
Yes.
The one that Tim is drinking was split from a larger bottle.
From a fifth.
He's drinking that bottle.
Yeah, right.
You dropped the other bottle on your kitchen floor today.
Yes.
So
This is a
theoretically,
very long way of saying this. Some of your bottles may be carbonated, and some of them may not be carbonated.
well, I would think that the bottles that you bottled on the original bottling day would not be carbonated. Something happened in the rebottling of the splitting of that one bottle.
Okay.
The one that if you had not
So it got contaminated.
something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Something if you had not dropped that bottle and it exploded, right? On your,
oh my God, it was like Hiroshima. Okay.
Okay, so long story short,
All right.
we were essentially there's a difference in the meads that we're tasting, but I'll let Tim go first on his tasting notes.
So I think this is very good. There's nice cherry character to it. Could probably use a little more, but it's not it's not weak. It's just I've got access to fruit, so I use a lot. But it's very good. The only thing is I would make a note of is this is kind of sweet and sparkling right now, at least what I'm having. You guys are having some that isn't sweet. I would put whatever remains of this batch in the fridge or someplace cold, just in case, because bottle bombs are nothing to play with. But especially for the listeners, if you find yourself you've got a mead that you thought was going to be still, that is sweet and sparkling, that is a bottle bomb waiting to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Put it someplace cold. Bottle bombs are nothing to play with. I have seen a bottle explode that put glass in a sheetrock wall 30 feet away.
Ooh.
It is not something to play around with.
Well, I gotta think that this was the one that we opened had no hiss whatsoever.
Yeah.
It had a plastic stopper that if there was
Yeah.
too much carbonation, the stopper would have popped.
Right.
I just bought a little bit of
Right.
tasting cork
Yeah.
because I figured
Right.
I'd be drinking them really quick, and I was just like, oh, what the heck? Just do a tasting cork.
Yeah.
on
So,
it.
but good
That's a good
point.
strategy for the most part, but
Good
I'm
point.
concerned about people like, oh, this is sparkling. I'll just let it go. No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The yeast yeast alcohol tolerance is a myth. One of the Lallemand yeast scientists described it as a speed limit. But at the end of the day, the yeast see sugar, they're going to ferment. They don't care what it says on the yeast packet. They're on the inside of the packet, and they're illiterate. They can't read what it says. So just because it says 15% and you're at 16%, that doesn't mean, that meat is not going to ferment any more sugar I give it. So
Right.
Well, I think
if this happens to you, you need to this is an educational opportunity. Tim's going to get on a soapbox.
no, it's good.
If this happens to you, it's good. You've caught lightning in a bottle, but do not assume that it's just going to be okay,
Right.
because it may not be.
I wish that you could taste the sample that we have, Tim, because to me the fruit on this sample is way up front. I get a lot.
It is.
I
It
get
is completely.
I get a lot of cherry. There's a sweetness there that's very nice. This is a wonderful. I'm kind of glad that you dropped that bottle on the floor.
Well, we'll never know.
The one I have is very good.
Well,
it is still sweet. The cherry is very present, and the carbonation is nice. My concern would be what happens 6 months, a year later.
Yeah.
If this keeps going. Right now, this is beautiful. This is lightning in a bottle. This is, the kind of thing we all dream about being able to do. I'd be very happy if this were mine. And I have had this happen to me. I had a maple blossom I made that sat in a carboy for 2 years and then carbonated after I put it in the bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. But it didn't carbonate very much. But I also kept it cold until I drank it all because I was concerned about the bottle bombs. But that is not any attack on the meat. This is beautiful. I like the flavor. I like the fruit presentation.
Yeah,
but
it's amazing.
I'm taking the opportunity to educate people about, hey, you need to, bottle bombs are nothing to play with. They really are not anything to play around with.
Oh, for sure.
No, I know.
And especially with heavier gauge.
Well, you know what? When I was bottling this, it was just one of those days, and I thought, oh, should I retreat this? And I was actually trying not to use too much chemicals. I'm not adverse to using potassium sorbate and K-meta, in my meads, and I do it all the time. But I also don't want to use more than I need to.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, should I treat this again? And I didn't. But now, in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have at least done a light treatment, maybe just with some sorbate. But again, my half bottle that we have didn't.
It's completely
still. So go figure.
So I'll say this: as a rule, sorbate is measured based on the volume of the mead. So, you've got so many gallons, you need so many grams of sorbate. Sulfite, its effectiveness is affected by the pH of the mead. So if you measure the pH and, then you calculate your sulfite dosage. If you get that wrong, it can still go ahead and carbonate because sulfite kills the yeast. Sorbate is birth control. It keeps the surviving yeast from reproducing.
Yep.
But if you don't kill all the yeast, those survivors will more than happily continue to ferment slowly over time.
Yep.
So I always check the pH of my mead before I do it. And then if I'm going to back sweeten, I usually add just a little tiny pinch of sulfite back to the sweetening, syrup that I use just to make sure, because you're doing two things. You're increasing the volume and also sulfite decline, the amount of available declines over time.
Mm-hmm.
But So there should never be a need to resorbate, but there is a need to resulfite, and you can buy the equipment if you want to spend a lot of money to buy the equipment to calculate the sulfite, but more than likely a little extra at bottling.
It won't hurt.
It won't hurt.
Yeah.
And the taste will dissipate over time, but check that pH. You can buy a pH meter for not a lot of money. For the amount of money you're spending on honey, the cost of a pH meter is marginal.
You know where I get my honey.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
right.
Honey's expensive. I mean,
yeah.
I've sent you guys some stuff that's hard to get and rare, and I'll spend money on good honey. So you think about the cost, and you think about what you could buy a cheap pH meter for, and it's really worth the investment.
Yeah.
But I'd be very happy if this were my mead, Steve.
All right. Thanks, guys. And
yes, James.
We'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks again to Tim and Steve. That was delicious and fun, and we always learn something. Tim is putting together another experiment to share with us in San Diego at HomebrewCon in June, which will be here before you know it. Time is flying by. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions in the meantime, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. That's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.